Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode in our series of our educational rating climb. Today, we start off at the 600 ELO rating, and we are going to play a few games. Maybe we'll play 5 games. I don't know. We'll see how it feels. And I'm honestly so excited, so we're just gonna jump right into it. So we have the black pieces. Our opponent plays the move e4. I'm going to follow standard opening protocols. I'm going to play the move e5. By now, we know that we should develop our pieces, protect our e-pawn in the center, and we're going to move on. Our opponent plays knight to c3. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm going to play knight f6, get my pieces out. And we're just going to play chess. Our opponent plays bishop to c4. We're going to play bishop to c5 and prepare to castle. Our opponent castles, so I'm simply going to castle and get my king out of the center. Our opponent plays the move d3. I could play the move d6, which is a completely reasonable move, and try and get my bishop out to the g4 square. However, I don't really like the spin on the g5 square, so I'm going to play the move h6. And you see now that we're 600, our opponents are, kind of following opening principles. They're not hanging their pieces in the opening. So we're just going to kind of play it very slow and develop. And basically, if we just don't hang our pieces and take free pieces, we're going to be fine. Our opponent plays the move knight to d5. It's not a bad move by any stretch of the imagination. I could play the move d6, simply developing another piece. I will play the move d6, just keeping it very simple, and prepare the move bishop to g4. It would have been slightly better if my opponent decided to move his bishop instead of his knight again, but both moves are completely reasonable here. So we're just going to wait for our opponent to make a move. And if you have noticed, I'm really not I'm not going for anything fancy with the Caro-Kann. I'm still playing e5. Maybe if we get to 800, maybe I'll experiment with the Caro-Kann. But for people in the 600 rating range, I really just want you to focus on opening principles. Don't really focus on studying openings very much. Don't over concern yourself with theory or things like this, and just play normal chess. So our opponent plays the move knight takes f6, and it's check. So we have to recapture, and we have two options. Either I take with the g-pawn or I take with the queen. Now, if I take with the g-pawn, this leaves my king very vulnerable, and these double f-pawns over here will be weak in the endgame. Plus, I notice that this bishop sees the h6 pawn. So if I take, this bishop is going to swoop in and take my h6 pawn with a tempo on the rook. So I will just take with the queen, develop another piece. And this decision by my opponent is a little inaccurate because he has moved the knight once, twice, and now 3 times, and the knight is now gone. So it's kind of a waste of time here. So my next move will, again, opponent plays bishop to d5, kind of neglecting his own development over here. He shouldn't, it's generally one of the opening principles to not move the same piece twice in the opening. you should really be concerned with developing your pieces here. And I'm really not concerned with this capture. And I will probably just play very normal chess here and continue my development with bishop to g4. And now my rooks are connected. I would love to play on the next move knight to e5, but he takes. And again, this is just another waste of time with bishop c4, bishop d5, bishop c6. You're wasting way too much time. You've moved your knight 3 times and you lost it. You moved your bishop 3 times and you lost it. And it's only been 10 moves. And I have both my bishops out. I have my queen out. My rooks are connected. And black is simply better here because of the lead in development and activity. So I may be considering bishop f3 here to damage his structure. Yes, these pawns are doubled, but it really doesn't matter because he has no concrete way to target these pawns. Our opponent plays the move bishop to d2. I could take on f3. However, his knight really isn't going anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called taking the open file. See, if I play the move rook to b8, my rook is now very active and it sees the entire file over here. So I would just have activated another piece. So I'm going to very simply play the move rook to b8, targeting this b2 pawn over here. And generally, if you play calmly, you're going to do very fine. So our opponent plays the move rook to b1 and guarding the b2 pawn. But if you notice, just comparing these two rooks, my rook is superior because this rook just stuck over here. My rook sees the entire diagonal file and is pressuring. So we have a variety of moves. I can take on f3, damage the structure, but that's not going anywhere. I can double up on the b file. And there are a lot of possibilities. So let's think. So looking at this position, I actually am thinking about this rook. See, this rook isn't really active, but how can we try to activate it? There are a few ideas. One of them is queen to g6, with the idea of f5. And the other is rook to d8, with the idea of d5 and pressuring on the file over here. Honestly, I don't know which is best, but what appears to me to be the most intuitive here is the move queen to g6, because I want to play the move f5 over here and bulldoze the position over here. However, queen to g6, my opponent can play h3, but I can just take it because he spent, and we'll figure it out. This f5 move it's known as a pawn break. It's known as when you push a pawn like this and you want to open the position, it's known as a pawn break. In addition to opening up the position for my rook, if you notice, here I have what's known as the bishop there. I have the two bishops. My opponent does not have two bishops. And generally, when you have the two bishops, you do want to open up the position because bishops are like snipers. They like an open board. On the other hand, knights like a closed board. So our opponent plays the move a3. Now, our opponent probably intends b4, but it's very important to just not to evaluate things concretely. Now, let's say Daniel Naroditsky, he actually did comment about things like these. It's kind of, what if, let's say we allowed white to achieve their greatest dreams and play the move b4. What happens? Nothing really. I just move my bishop, and my bishop is really strong on this diagonal. So I don't need to acknowledge this at all. And actually, I can play the move pawn to f5 here. And our position here is simply crushing. White should have responded with maybe knight to h4. Position would have gotten a little bit more complicated, or wait, not immediately. Maybe h3, or some more resilient defense. Our opponent plays the move bishop to a5, targeting this pawn over here. And we can simply completely ignore him and just take on e4, because this pawn is completely irrelevant. Because when I take on e4, now I can, this rook and this bishop, they do see the knight. And this pawn over here is pinned to the king. So my opponent cannot recapture with the pawn or the queen, because I would just take. And when I do take on f3, it's actually, I'm threatening checkmate, and I'm threatening the queen on the d1 square. So I will just simply take, and the game is over. This threat on my rook, on my pawn, it's really not important at all. See, a lot of players here would have played the move, maybe rook to f7 or bishop b6, offering a trade of bishops. But, you know, Daniel Naroditsky also said this: the better you get at chess, the less reactive you become to, you know, threats like this, like bishop a5. It's very important to know when to acknowledge a threat and when to realize you cannot even pose a bigger threat. So we can take on f3. This is made, and it's game over. Excuse me. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. About the poetry videos, I do intend on making a new poetry video soon. However, recently when I've tried writing, I haven't been able to just come up with anything that I like, or, you know, poetry that I really like. So that's why the poetry videos have been slowing down a lot. But I do want to write more poetry. And okay, so our opponent takes our rook on b8. This is just checkmate. A lot of people just tunnel vision here, or they would be concerned that the bishop took the rook. But we can just simply end the game with queen takes g2, checkmate. And yeah, so I was saying, I also I want to do some videos in Arabic, chess videos in Arabic. Many of you would know that. Many of you would know that I am Arabian and I do speak fluent Arabic. I'm from Jordan. You can see this from the flag. So I do want to, you know, make some Arabic videos. So let's see where our opponent went wrong. Our opponent played the opening, or the beginning of the opening, really well with d3, and knight d5 is fine. A better move here would have been maybe bishop to e3, trading off my good bishop over here, pressuring this on the king. But knight d5 is fine. What's not fine is taking here on f6 unprompted, because we discussed this, it's a waste of time. And bishop d5 is also another waste of time, because there's really no reason to put your bishop here, because you're not going to trade here. So I continued normally with bishop to g4. My opponent took, excuse me, which is another inaccuracy. And then after rook b8, queen g6, and threatening this f5 break. And Our opponent should have probably played the move h3. I would have played the move bishop to h5. Again, you don't want to trade the bishop for a knight for no good reason. And if g4, I would have just played f5 here. Because you're pinned. And let's say our opponent took like this, I'd have just taken with the rook. And even though both of these are hanging, oh wait, never mind, this is a blunder. Yeah, let's just forget about that. That's a blunder because he has knight h4. Yeah, we don't have to get too much into the details, but you could probably take here and play f5, even though you're giving up a bishop for a knight, because this attack is very, very strong with the bishop and queen like this. And if black were to play the move queen to g3 or white, you would just take and you're pinned. So excuse me for my miscalculation of the move bishop to h5 here, because g4 and knight h4 is pretty annoying. Again, we have to acknowledge, knowing when and when to not acknowledge threats like b4 or bishop a4, bishop a5, taking here, opening up the file, the double threat, and just checkmating. Had our opponent played queen takes, we could have probably just taken with the pawn here, threatening mate again. And if g3, believe it or not, we can just ignore this again. After bishop takes b8, you can just go here. This is what Hikaru likes to call a lobster pincer mate. Or wait, is it Hikaru or Danya? Anyways, it's a common checkmating pattern. So we're gonna jump right into our next game. And we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna play the move e4. Our opponent plays e5. Gonna play knight to f3, knight c6, and I could play a Scotch, which, believe it or not, I am 2200, which is not that good of a rating, but it is good enough to get you or like teach people in this rating range. Obviously, we're not gonna accept the draw, but I don't really want people in the like 672 range to overwhelm themselves with studying openings or things like this. Maybe at the 800 level, I'll start playing d4. So I'm just going to play bishop c4, the normal Italian, getting our pieces out, knight c3, d3. Honestly, if I recall correctly, I've played like this until I got to like 1800. So it's really fine. Now we could castle, but our opponent is targeting the pawn here. So I'll just play the move. I could play d3 or knight c3. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to play knight c3, developing another piece and defending. Believe it or not, you'd be surprised how many people just, the lower rating levels, they just blunder this pawn over here. So always keep an eye out for that. Our opponent plays the move bishop to c5. I'll just simply castle here. And lo and behold, this pawn on e5 is free for the taking. And if you do make these sorts of blunders, don't be yourself down about it. I've made these blunders and worse countless times, and very important tournaments in my life. So we could just simply grab the free pawn on e5 over here. And again, black is not following the principle of not moving the same piece twice in the opening. It's still the opening. You shouldn't be playing moves like knight d4 here. Now, we were targeting the f7 pawn. Our opponent castled. Now this is defended. Now many people would just jump in here with knight f7 and trade the two pieces for a rook. But that's actually a bad trade. Generally, two pieces are better than a rook and a pawn. You shouldn't trade two pieces for a rook and a pawn. So here, I have a variety of options. I can play the move pawn to d3. I can play the move knight to f3, bringing my knight back. and avoiding all shenanigans with like d6. And honestly, I really want to keep it simple. I'm just going to play the move knight to f3, and white is better because white is just up on. So our opponent takes, and have you noticed this theme of time wasting with knight c6, knight d4, and knight f3? You can't be doing this, guys. And again, the same theme. Do we take with the g pawn or the queen? Or the queen? Of course, we take with the queen. With queen takes f3. Our opponent plays the move pawn to d6, probably intending bishop g4. And I don't want to allow my opponent to develop with what's known as tempo, which is a time-winning move. They develop, they get a piece out, and I move my queen again. So I'm going to play the move h3. And the thing about this move h3 is that I'm preventing bishop g4 and knight g4. But now I don't have to worry about getting back rank mated with some rook or queen, because my king can always hide safely on the h2 square. Our opponent plays the move c6. It's a decent move, preventing the move knight to d5. And again, our opponent could play the move b5 next move. And I could prevent it with a4. Honestly, it's annoying for my opponent to get some space with b5, bishop b3, and a5. But I don't know if that's really that important to acknowledge, especially at the 700 rating ELO. But it's a common theme in these bishop c4, bishop c5 positions to play b5, a5, but that's a little advanced. But I'm going to play a4. And this is different from last time because the space on the queen side here it's a lot more tangible than last game. So our opponent plays the move bishop to e6, seeking a trade of bishops. Logical move, very logical. If I take, he takes, and he opens up his rook file. And that's why whenever you want to make a trade in chess, you have to ask your question: am I helping my opponent, or like, what does my opponent want? My opponent simply wants to trade this good bishop on this diagonal and wants to open up his rook. So, and he's attacking my bishop. I could play bishop b3, but I don't want him to take like this. So I will very simply play the move bishop to a2 and say, no, thank you, sir. I don't want to open up your rook file. So I would love to play d3, bishop g5 here, or d3, bishop e3, try and maybe open up my file like this and connect my rooks. Which is very simple, developing instincts here. Our pawn breaks in the center with d5. Logical. But honestly, I think the move e5 here is... wow, that's actually pretty complicated. e5, there's knight d7, and this pawn is really weak, so I'm just going to take. He takes with the bishop. Again, we know that generally bishops are better than knights, so I'm just going to trade my knight for the bishop. And now my bishop is very, very strong on this diagonal. It is dangerously strong on this diagonal. Now, taking with the pawn here is a little inaccurate. I will explain why. Alright, sorry, maybe in the... but you don't have to worry about that at this level, actually. So, my opponent plays the move knight takes. I could play the move d3, and I could consider d4, but that's too fancy, because d4 with ideas of sacrificing and d1. Well, we're not going to do that, because we're going to play normal chess. I could consider c3 and d4 here, and fighting for the center and opening up my bishop. And I actually like that a lot, so I'm just going to play the move pawn to c3 here. And we're going to play the move d4 here. And this is a very pleasant position for the white pieces, because white is gonna get d4 with the two bishops, and last game we did talk about having the two bishops in an open position. They are very powerful. Our opponent plays the move b5, which, believe it or not, is actually a mistake. I don't want to be too harsh calling it a mistake, but after I take with a takes b5 here, now I have opened my rook. And now I'm going to play the move d4, opening up my bishop. And not only that, but he actually hung his knight. Not only do I open up my rook, but he cannot take back because of this. And it's a very serious mistake. Our opponent sacrifices with knight takes c3. I hope I'm not going too quickly here. What happened is my opponent played the move b5. I took, opening up my rook, and this pawn was defending this knight from the bishop and queen. Oops, from the bishop and queen. So after this trade, now this knight is no longer defended. It's only defended by the queen, and I have two attacking pieces here. So after the move d4, I'm attacking the bishop and the knight. My opponent decides to sacrifice. Now I could take with the queen, however he takes my pawn with his bishop, so I will very simply just take with the b pawn. This is defended, and I will probably play, if he moves from this diagonal, play bishop a3, attack his rook with pressure on the f7 pawn. And this is the beauty of the two bishops in the open position. I hope I didn't say too much information. I do have to excuse me. The opponent plays bishop takes d4. Just giving up the bishop for free, I'll just simply take. And after bishop a3, he has b4, so let's not do that. I will just very simply develop another piece and play the move bishop to e3, attacking the queen. I have the two bishops, it's an open position. I'm up two bishops, he has for free. This bishop is strong, this bishop is strong. Our opponent plays this move. And actually we have a pretty beautiful tactic here with the move bishop takes f7. Point is, our opponent cannot recapture, because if he recaptures, we take on a8 with the queen. So let's do that. Let's take on f7. Our opponent has to play the move king to h8. And then I'll probably centralize my queen with queen to e4. And the good thing about centralizing your pieces like this is that when your pieces are in the center of the board, they see more squares. So consequentially, they're just more powerful. So yeah, I do have 2 minutes. So unfortunately, I will have to speed things up. Again, we're up 2 bishops. So we discussed this last video. When you're up material, you generally want to trade. So I will do that with the move queen to b3. Excuse me. So I will do that. I will offer a queen trade with the move queen to b3. And this pawn on a7 is actually hanging. So we are waiting for our opponent to make a move. Our opponent plays the move queen to f6. Now he is attacking our bishop. However, I will simply take on a7. And my bishop is now defended. Now I just have to activate my rook. And probably with the move rook d1, either offering a trade and wanting to go to d7, or rook a1, doubling up on the a file. Maybe I'd use a rook a8. Our opponent plays g6, which is fine. And yeah, this is actually, like, the position is very clumped up with pieces. So I'll bring my bishop back just to get rid of this annoying always having to worry about the bishop. And I will just bring my rook here. And here we have our rook on the 7th rank. So this is the first rank, the second rank, third rank, fourth rank. Rooks on the 7th rank are generally considered to be really, really strong. Because as you can see here, he's kind of paralyzed. But unfortunately, I do have to speed things up. So I'll play the move rook to c1. And I intend rook to c7. And bad news over here with the two rooks on the 7th. And I will do precisely that. I'll play the move rook to c7. Now I'm threatening checkmate on the h7 square. Our opponent doesn't have any check with queen to a1. I will simply recapture. And yeah. Threatening me on h7. And I don't see a way for him to prevent it. Maybe you can play queen to h4, but you're like dead lost. So yeah, it was a nice game. You know, it's kind of an all over the place kind of game, not really a reserved game, but we overcame by, you know, the simple opening principles, tactical vision, and we could trade here, but this is just checkmate, and the game is over. It's a very nice game, and I don't want to spend too much time analyzing the game. Let's just jump on into the next one. So now we're in the 700 rating range. Our opponent plays the move e5. Excuse me. Our opponent plays the move e5. e4, I will respond with e5. And queen h5, early queen attacks. We discussed this last video. We won't play the move g6. This pawn is hanging. We won't play knight f6. This pawn hangs. We will just calmly play the move knight to c6. And when bishop c4 comes, I will just block. Our opponent doesn't play bishop c4. They still want this pawn. They are attacking this pawn. However, I can create a better threat or a higher value threat, the move knight to f6 here, attacking the queen, and his queen cannot take because I'll just take this pawn like this. And this queen is actually really awkward over here. He plays the move queen to h3, which runs into a problem. I could take this pawn. However, we have seen an idea similar to this last video with the knight on h3. I can actually play the move here, pawn to d5. And I strike in the center and I attack the queen. And last video we did say, what? You've been temporarily suspended? What? Why? What do I do? What? Wait, bummer. Why have I been suspended? Be kind, helpful, do not abuse, attack, threaten. What? Do not open more than 2 accounts, but I did talk to chess.com support about this. I don't know. We'll figure it out next video. So I guess this is our last game, but it's fine. I'm really happy, you know. I will continue to talk about the game, but I'm very, very happy about the series. You know, I've always wanted to teach chess, and I really am enjoying the series. So I'll figure it out next video or after this video what exactly went wrong. So again, we played the move d5. following the protocol if you can put 2 pawns in the center, then you should. And my opponent cannot take here because this bishop is attacking the queen. After the move g4, I can simply just take, attacking the queen, attacking the knight. And yeah, white is going to be up 2 pawns because I'm going to win this pawn in the center too. So yeah, our opponent plays the move queen to g2. I could take like this, which looks ugly, not gonna lie. Yeah, that kinda looks ugly. So what I'm going to do is, now I do have a good reason to trade the bishop for knight because I don't want these two doubled pawns in the center, which could be liabilities. I will simply take the knight with my bishop here, attacking his queen, and after he takes with the queen, I will take with the knight. Now I'm threatening the move knight to d4 with ideas of jumping in over here with c2. I have various queen h4 ideas. I could play the move queen h4 immediately here, threatening checkmate. And this is an exception to the rule of not putting your queen out too early, because I'm up 2 pawns. I have massive development, and this threat is very strong. It's because our opponent played the opening inaccurately that I can break this rule over here, and he has no way to punish me for it. So I play the move queen to h4. This is a problem. If he defends with queen f3 or queen e2, I immediately come in with knight d4, and the game is just over. Yep, our opponent plays queen to e2, knight d4, threatening c2, threatening the queen. The queen cannot guard c2 and the f2 pawn at the same time. The game is over. And I also have threats of knight f3 if he plays, like, looming around in the position. So yeah, just very calmly acknowledging this threat, not being scared. Knight f6, d5, takes, free pawn, queen h4, d4. And yeah, I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee here. And we're gonna wait for our opponent to make a move. And yeah, about the Arabic channel. I don't know if I wait. So our opponent plays the move queen to d3. Can take like this. I can take like this. I'll just keep it simple. Take with the queen. And after king to d1, I can trade with queen f3. But I kind of want something better. Yeah, maybe there's no knockout here. Like, way to win material. What about the move knight c5 here? You know what? Fine. I don't see a concrete way to win this position. I will very simply, I am up 3 pawns. I could trade with queen f3 here. Though actually, I do have better moves. Yeah. Yeah, I can do something really nice here. I can play the move queen to h4. And I'm threatening knight f2, which is a fork, and the king, some discovered attacks on the king here, when the king reaches e1. You could have traded here with f3 and it would have been completely fine. This is a horrible blunder, because after knight f2, this is a discovered check, and this family fork I will simply take, and the game is over. I can check him again. I can check. He has to go back, because if he goes here, then queen f2 is just checkmate. The game is over. Can I play another game, or am I? Why am I suspended? That's crazy. It's actually what? They closed my account. Bruh. But I messaged them about it. What? Alright, it's not a big deal. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure that once I contact them, it will be completely fine, because the support, they told me that you can create your account, but it's better if you waited a day or 2 or 3 days. I didn't, because they said it was fine. So I kind of was super excited to film. Well, anyways, it's fine. I'll check it out later. It's probably not the end of the series. I'll probably get the account back somehow. But yeah, so let's talk about the game. Queen h3, played the move d5, got g4, just following normal principles. Knight f3, knight c6, knight f6, our pawn played the move queen to h3, played d5. We saw this in the last video. If you can put 2 pawns in the center, then you should. And after g4, I took. After queen g2, I took the bishop here so as to not damage. Knight takes, and I was threatening knight d4, so he went back. I played queen to h4, this threat. Queen e2, knight d4, and then I took, and I played queen h4 here. Now you could play the move queen to f3 and just win this like this and convert this position, and you're threatening knight f2, but you can do this. But queen f2, I played queen h4, and this is better because I'm threatening knight f2 here, and he has no way to stop all of my threats. Then I won the queen, then I went back, took, and he can't go king f1, he has to always go back, because after he goes here, it's checkmate. So that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for anyone who has made it here. I'll see what's going on with the account, and I hope anyone who watched enjoyed the video and at least learned one thing new. So that's the end of the video. Bye bye, guys.